So this is going to be our what we call a forum, which is more formal than when we have open house, but we have kind of a little bit of both. So there are tables set up on the side. You can actually go talk to these candidates before this thing and after this thing, if there's time. And I wanted to thank the candidates for showing up. This is a thank you for being here. And I want to invite the candidates to come sit on the front row, and the staff, if there's room. These are the seats of honor because they have a reserved sticker on them. And let's see. Oh, and I just want to remind everybody that please be sure your cell phone is on silent. You know, my wife is just the worst at thinking it's on silent in her purse, and she doesn't pull it out to look at it, and then it goes off. So I keep telling her, pull it out and look at it and see if it's on silent. And of course, we expect everybody to behave and be respectful. This is a forum for learning about these candidates and not for throwing tomatoes. And as Matt says, if you're going to throw tomatoes, at least take them out of a can first. Let's see. The way this thing, and Matt Dawson is our moderator, and he's going to kind of take over and explain how this format's going to work. And I hope everybody has a really good time learning about these candidates. This is going to be a very hot election, and so you definitely want to be informed, because when you go in that voter box, you're going to see all kinds of names, and you'll want to know who you're voting for. And so, Matt, take it over.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Please sit down. You'll embarrass me. Really, this is too much. All right. I told them I was hoping to get more people than this, and I warned them. I said, "Look, New TV is running the Matlock Marathon today, so." And then they threw in a couple murders she wrote after that, so I thought that's hard to compete with at Frisco Lakes. But anyway, we got a good crowd here. My name's Matt Dawson. I've done this before. I MC quite a few things out here, and I enjoy it. I live in neighborhood 2. Everybody know where neighborhood 2 is? Is anybody here from 2? I know we do. We can't see Lake Louisville from where we are, but we can hear the gunshots and fireworks, courtesy of who we back up to. Neighborhood 2, our motto is, hey, at least we're not Hackberry, okay? So, and that's who I'm talking about. You can set your calendar by what holiday it is, because the gunshots and the fireworks, signing of the armistice, Arbor Day, anything they celebrate back there. But anyway, we're going to get started here in a moment. Quick thing I want to make clear, I had nothing to do with the questions. I'm only the trained monkey up here asking the questions, okay? I had nothing to do with their input, anything like that. That came from another committee. And with that, I'm going to go back over here real quick to my podium and go over the rules, if you will. They're very brief. For each candidate, I will call you guys up, and you'll both take the stage, and I'll ask the questions, and I'll alternate the first question between each candidate, A and B, and then B and A. So nobody has to start fresh with each question. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. There will not be any closing statements, so get everything done in the 2-minute opening that you're allotted, if you have something you want them to know about yourself. You have 2 minutes to answer the questions. We've changed that today, actually. It was going to be 1 minute, but now the powers that be said 2 minutes, so we have 2 minutes to answer a question. And you have 2 total rebuttals. So in the form I was given, they had it on in bold print, use them wisely. So you have 2 total rebuttals if you choose to use them. And if you do choose to rebut your competition there, just raise your hand and let us know that, hey, I'd like to address that, and then you can rebut that, okay? Is everyone clear on that? Yeah. All right.
Actually,
yes, sir.
Are we only allowed to rebuttal our opponents, or can we rebuttal anyone?
It's not specified. If there's someone in another race that you want to rebut, as far as I'm concerned, you can. You have 2 rebuttals, you can do what you like with, okay? And then unless somebody says no, We're good with that? Okay. We have a timekeeper back here. I think you went over that real quick. You'll hear a ding, ding, ding when your time is up, and there's also placards that'll hold up when you have 10 seconds left. And then when they hold up time, that's it. Okay, your time is done. These microphones we have, they're new to Frisco Lakes, and these are good mics. These are Sennheiser. That's a good brand. And they are unidirectional, not omnidirectional. So get on the mic. Don't talk out here, okay? Get on the mic. Omnidirectional, you could talk out here and it would be fine, but these are unidirectional. They only go one way. So get on the mic to be heard all over the room, okay? And with that, make sure I didn't leave anything out. We have a couple candidates that were no-shows. And we're going to start, there he is right here on the front row. There'll just be one candidate coming up. This is for Texas U.S. House District 4, the seat currently held by Pat Fallon, who is not here, but he has a competitor this year, someone running against him. His name is, I've got it right here, Simon Cardell? Cardell, Simon Cardell. So he'll be coming up by himself, and I'll just ask the questions of him and him alone. So let's give it up for Simon Cardell.
Hello, check. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Simon Cardell, and I'm running to serve you in Congress. I am running because I think it's safe to say that our country is in pretty desperate times right now. And I, like the patriots before me, have decided to step up and show some courage and fight for what I believe in. I have the privilege of being born in the greatest country on the face of this earth, and I'm born in probably the greatest time. So I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've received, and the least I can do is show my courage and step up and serve people who have gifted me this opportunity to be born into the Republic. So I am running a campaign that is aimed to form a majority through our American values, who put the people first, who serve with good faith, who want to solve issues, and who want to better their constituents and not just themselves. I was on Capitol Hill this time last year working in a Republican office, and now I have come back home to run as a Democrat because what I saw disgusted me. I saw both parties that have gone completely rogue and are not pursuing the interests of the people, but instead are living a life of vanity and trying to serve themselves instead of the people. We have people that want to take away and cut your Social Security, and people like my dad who really needed Social Security to help raise me and my brothers, to bail out large corporations and bail out their businesses and give out free handouts. All right, my time is up. So.
Okay, thank you. Each candidate, by the way, will have 4 total questions. And starting with question 1, what is your position on immigration and border control?
Yeah, so for border control, I am for a secure border. I think every nation, just like ourselves, we have to have a secure border in order to survive. I think we need more immigration judges that are sent down to complete the backlog within our immigration system. We need to launch all the resources and legislation needed to take care of the border. So I am the one that wants to solve this issue. My opponent does not. They have no incentive to solve it. This is the only issue that has traction for them. For his 2 terms, he has done absolutely nothing to solve the border. No legislation has been passed, and the people that he won't talk about immigration. So when I go block walking in our district, no one can vote. All these brand new houses and these construction companies that are funding my opponent are, so he's completely bought out by land developers and real estate moguls, and all of these houses that my generation of Americans are wanting to buy, we have to compete with rich foreigners who are cheating our broken immigration system, who can buy $1 million house and come over here and skip over everyone who is patiently waiting. So I think that kind of corruption needs to be ridden from our government, and we need someone who will fix our immigration system and make it fair. And especially we need to look and reform our immigration system about how you can get into this country. You can't just abuse our system and buy a house and gain citizenship.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, Simon was a late addition to the forum, so he did, his questions that I'm asking did not make the PowerPoint presentation, but understand when the other candidates are up, you, the audience, will be able to see the question in case you forgot it or want to know how it's worded. It will be on the screen. But apologies to Simon, we just didn't get it in time because he was a late arrival to this. So, then from now on, you will see the questions. Okay, question number 2. Do you support or oppose federal investment to stimulate U.S. manufacturing?
Yes, I do. I think government has no option but to step in. We have seen our jobs have been, so our economy, we don't make anything here anymore because corporations are not looking out for your interests. They are looking out for their interests. And our manufacturing jobs are non-existent here. Our business in the United States is business. It's financials. That's 40% of our GDP. It's not actually making anything or producing anything here. We just exploit other countries. It's labor who we have to compete with. We're exploiting other countries' resources, and we're not using our materials here. We have the most resources out of any other country, and we need to invest in our education. We need to invest in skills, and instead of just being able to go to college and then work in an office job, I want to actually invest in our ability to build stuff so we can fix supply chain issues, which will also help in national security, so we're not having to rely on our enemies' resources, and it would also fix inflation because we're buying things here and we're making things here. So once we start to make more and we actually start to produce, then the cost of goods will go down.
Thank you. Question number 3. What role should the government have in helping reduce cost of medical care?
Yeah, so I'm a big supporter of Obamacare. That's how I got covered. So I believe we need a big part of what our government can do to create a more prosperous future for Americans is to focus on our country's development here, to put our American citizens first. We, in the last decades, have been focused on destructive foreign interventions, and it's only made us less safe. We've created more enemies by spending tens of trillions of dollars, sending our taxpayers' money in order to get into more conflicts and create more enemies, and enter in regime change wars. So I think we should focus on putting and taking care of our own countries here. We should focus on veterans' health care. We could focus on medical debt. We can focus on things that directly impact our lives and would make us a very prosperous nation, and we would increase the way of living for all. We are the richest nation in history, and it does not feel like that. We have the most medical debt. We have the most student debt. So I believe our government should focus on everyday Americans' issues, rather than spending our taxpayers' money to try to destroy other countries and create more enemies.
Okay, very good. Last question for Simon. What is your position on reproductive rights?
Yeah, so I think the whole issue is a tragedy. I think it's a very personal and sad issue, and it's been pretty disgusting to see what has gone on since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It's been left up to state governments who have no idea how to handle this and have not done their job. So I believe, so you see like Ken Paxton, our Attorney General, threatening doctors, threatening to jail women, and that's abhorrent. So I think on the federal level, it has become an issue to where federal protections are legal, are required because of the treatment of some of these state governments. Like you have someone like Kate Cox, who has to go and spend thousands of dollars to New York to get treated. You have women that are bleeding out on operating tables, and you have doctors that are scared to touch them. So I think it's very dangerous for politicians to try to get into the medical room. And so on the late term side, I have morals, and I am not for just abortion on demand. I think it's a very complicated issue, but I believe we should trust women, and I am for Roe v. Wade protections. It was not a problem until the Supreme Court overturned it, and I think federal protections are necessary because of how the state has reacted and their inability to pass reasonable laws on it. So I think protections are needed.
All right, very good. Simon Cardell. Thank you, sir. All right, moving along, just to let the candidates know what order we're going in. It'll be State Senate next, State Rep, Denton County Commissioner, Denton County Sheriff. Okay? So with that, and again, there's a couple, three, I think, that are not here. But State Senate candidates, Dale Frey, if you take the stage. And I don't believe, did Brent make it? Brent Hagenbuch? I don't think so, so you don't even need to take a seat unless you want to. So let's give it up to Dale.
How you doing? My name is Dale Frey, and I'm running to be your next Texas State Senator for District 30. It's a big, massive area that's all of around here. Stretches up to the North Texas border, out to Wichita Falls, and almost down to Fort Worth. Anyways, to tell you who I am, my wife and I came back down here to Texas to be with our father in the later years of his life as he battled cancer. This is going to segue to one of the many reasons I'm running for office, because I really want to try to fix our broken healthcare system down here. One of the first warning signs I got to see how bad things are is meeting a friend of mine, a woman named Kenneth, who owns her own LLC, who is a healthcare provider, and she's ranting to me over a cup of coffee about how she has to drop her Medicaid recipients because she says the money's just not there anymore. The rates have not been adjusted since long before the pandemic, and inflation's killing her in this sector. It is so frustrating because I know that we, Texas, are one of the few states in the country that's not opted into the Medicaid expansion program, a program we all spend money into through our federal taxes, and that goes to places like California and New Jersey, but not back here. All the meanwhile, Connect and so many other healthcare providers are having to drop their Medicaid recipients in order to stay in business. This affects people's lives. It affects my father-in-law's life, much like how, especially as a retired public school teacher, I was shocked to find out how little amount of money that public school teachers make in retirement. I was shocked to find how little amount of money public school teachers make before they retire. Vicky, another friend of mine, told me how much money she made before she retired as a public school teacher. And I said, my God, Vicky, that's the same amount of money I made in my first job out of college. Guys, we need to support our public schools. We need to stand up for our students and our teachers, and the school voucher program that is being pushed by the governor should not be passed. If it does, it will be the final nail in the coffin for our youngsters and for our public school teachers. This voucher program is not school choice. It is something that takes money away from our public education system. It is built specifically for that. That is the will of Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, the real people pulling the strings behind this. My name is Dale Frey, and I'm running to be your next Texas State Senator to stand against the voucher program and to try to fix the broken healthcare system in any way I can. Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you for your introduction. Your first question, you kind of covered it. If you want to skip it, that's fine. You want to answer, that's great. But don't kill the messenger. I'm just reading it. Question number one.
All right, what you got?
What is your position on school vouchers?
Oh, okay. Well, this might come as a surprise to you. All right, let me talk about this real quick. I understand when someone says school choice or says, hey, don't you want to be able to send your kid to the school of your choosing? I understand how that's attractive. And look, if you wanted to have an additional program such as school choice, this legislature should fund that through the big massive surplus that we do very much have here in Texas. We're the 8th largest economy in the world. We can pay to fix our broken roads. We can pay for our infrastructure. We can even pay for a school choice program if you really wanted to. But that's not the way this is built. This is specifically built to sacrifice money from our public education system. In Plano ISD, for example, we just lost, I think, was it 3 or 4 of our public schools? Yeah, in Plano. They're shutting down, and I've seen this movie before. I think I know what's going to happen next. Plano ISD is going to sell those buildings because they need money. Some fat cat rich billionaire is going to purchase those buildings. They're going to turn them into charter schools, and then they're going to want the voucher program, right? What you're seeing right now is a privatization of our public education system, and we need to stand against this, all right? If you have a problem, or if you think you have a problem with something that's being taught in the public schools, I got good news for you. Your ISD board are elected officials. You can go to your PTA meetings, you can meet your teachers, you can elect your school board members, all right? But trying to implement a voucher program that would completely end all public education to all of Texas is not the way. So I stand harshly against the school voucher program in its entirety. Thank you.
All right, beautiful. So your next question, what do you think about school vouchers?
You want to give me another 2 minutes? I can keep going.
It's a joke. Very lame joke. All right, question number 2. How would you prioritize Texas projects paid for by federal infrastructure grants?
Federal infrastructure grants, okay, all right. Well, so if we're going to talk about infrastructure, there's a lot that we need to fix here in Texas. I mean, the top 2 things that comes to my mind is our failing power grid, for one. I think that comes to everyone's mind. I probably don't need to tell you much about that because I'm sure that everyone's aware of that. Another one that you might not be aware of as much, particularly around here, is our water grid, which we're also having issues as well. Let me talk about Wichita Falls for a second real quick. I know that's quite far from here, but it's part of my district, and it's an area where they nearly ran out of water. They have massive water scarcity issues up there, and so they're very concerned about the water grid. The problem with water in Texas is not that we necessarily always run out, we just don't always have it at the right places at the right time, and we need to introduce more funding into trying to upgrade our grid so we can transport water across areas to where they need to go. This will also help out our farmers. We also need to increase, I believe, if we could take federal grant money and put it into our infrastructure, I would invest that into aquifers and water recycling centers, because that will help us out as well. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Lake Ringgold. It's a lake that does not exist yet, but it's something that some legislatures have been pushing for. It will help out with our water situation. However, you have to understand the more lakes we create, most of the lakes here in Texas are man-made, by the way, but most of the lakes are very, very shallow. And because they're shallow, the Texas sun comes in and evaporates all that water. So even though it's really cheap to create more and more lakes here in Texas, it's actually not the most efficient way for us. And the more lakes that we create makes us run into these like eminent domain issues where we have to take people's land away in order to create more of these lakes. So I think if we could get these grants, I would introduce that into water recycling centers and aquifers and try to silt water out from other areas where we can.
Very good. Question 3. What is your position on climate change?
Oh, yeah, well, well, as someone who very until recently worked with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, I can tell you that climate change is not a hoax. In fact, I think I try to not use the word climate change. Instead, I would rather talk about climate trends. I think a lot of the media says the word climate change, and some people maybe have an idea in their head where a comet's going to hit the Earth, and one day that's going to be a That's not the case. These changing climate trends are things that affect us slowly over time. It's really more of a slow vice that's really crushing us, and it's really hurting our farmers a lot too. It's changing our environment ever so slowly. It's much like how you hear that meme of that frog who slowly is in hot water and slowly gets like boiled, right? It's kind of like that. So I understand a lot of people don't necessarily believe that it's a real thing. It is, but you have to look at the long-term trends. Again, like case in point, for example, I was just talking about the lakes that we have. You know, the more and more, the hotter and hotter it gets, as temperatures increase over time, you're gonna see more water evaporation. That's gonna affect our water supply issues. It's also gonna hurt a lot of our farmers in terms of the types of products that they can grow in their areas. So it's something that we definitely need to try to do whatever we can with. At the state level, I believe that what we should do is, when it comes to certain propositions, like Proposition 7, for example, that was an amendment that we just passed, I think, in the before the last primary. It was a proposition that said we had to pour more money into our power grid and try to fix our broken power grid. And at face value, that sounds great, but understand the way that proposition was written was specifically, it gives money mainly to natural gas and oil, basically Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, and it doesn't help out in any other energy sector. So when it comes to climate change, I think we should at least be open to looking at alternative energy solutions. I don't think we should just be focusing only on one particular sector of oil and gas alone. I think we should be able to branch out.
Very good, and your last question. Should state funds be used for border management?
Okay, I expected this to come up. It's Texas, right? Look, so far that's being done right now through Operation Lone Star. If you look at the history upon where that funding came from, funding for Operation Lone Star came right around the same time we severely started slashing money for our mental health care and for our public schools. So it's one of those things where I understand the concern, but you have to understand that this is a congressional issue. I understand that, like I said earlier, we are the 8th largest economy in the world, we are, but that still does not compare to the rest of the entirety of the United States of America. We do have a border problem. My mother works for CBP. I do see the issue, but the way we fix this is having our congressional members fund our border patrol. That did not happen recently, by the way. Donald Trump came out and he axed a bipartisan bill that would have funded our CBP, our Customs and Border Patrol. These politicians in Congress are playing games. The Republicans at the congressional level, they don't want to actually fix these problems. They just want something to complain about because that's what gets them votes. So if you really want to fix our border crisis, you better be talking to your congressmen, all right? They're the ones who have more money than Texas, and they're all the ones together who really need to come together to fix this problem. Aside from that, I don't want to demonize anyone of Hispanic resemblance or say that we're being invaded. I strongly stand against that kind of rhetoric, especially my extended family are Hispanics. My sister-in-law, for example, is from Honduras. Now she came here, she has a couple of kids here, she came here through the natural process, but I know the more and more that we talk about saying that all these people who don't look like me are invading this area, that hurts people like my sister-in-law. And that's not fair to them. So I believe that we should pay attention to the border issue. I also believe we should be humane about it. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Thank you, Rick. Next up, we'll have representatives for State House, and I would ask you both to come on stage, and that is Hava Johnston and Jared Patterson. If you guys want to take a seat, that's fine. If you want to remain standing, that's fine as well. Whatever you guys want to do. And you'll each be getting the same question. You can itself. Pretty good? All right, beautiful. So, we will start ladies first with Hava. You'll both get the same question. So, what is your, I'm sorry, you have your introduction. I'm sorry. You have your 2-minute introduction. Go ahead.
Awesome. I thought you were going to skip that part. My name is Hava Johnston, and I am running to be your next state representative for House District 106. I am a 4th-generation Texan and a small business owner, and I've seen the values that make our state strong: hard work, community, and a deep sense of fairness. But I've also seen how extremism, like the kind that my opponent here, Jared Patterson, champions, has been tearing our communities apart. Jared Patterson's dangerous policies, whether it's his relentless attacks on our books and schools, his assault on women's reproductive rights, and his blatant disregard for the LGBTQA+ community, shows that he is completely out of touch with the real needs of our district. My campaign is about something different. It's about bringing us together, because I believe that our strength lies in our unity and what unites us and not what divides us. But let's get down to what's really important here. Restoring and protecting reproductive rights for women in Texas. Expanding Medicaid so that more Texans have access to affordable health care. And finally, recognizing and giving our schools and our teachers the respect and the resources that they deserve. But that's not all. We have to enact common sense gun safety measures. Things like red flag laws and universal background checks. We've got to grow our economy by investing in small businesses. They are the true backbone of our economy. And guys, we have to protect our environment, our waterways, our wildlife, and all of our natural resources, because these are a legacy we truly do owe to our children and our grandchildren. Look, this isn't just my fight, this is our fight. So please join me as we try to build a Texas that truly embraces equal opportunity, celebrates diversity, and secures a promising future for all Texans.
Okay, Jared, your 2-minute intro.
Howdy folks, my name is Jared Patterson, and I've got the honor and privilege of serving you all in the Texas House down in Austin. That is something I don't take lightly. Walking into that Capitol building and walking onto that House floor and having a desk there to vote, to represent each and every one of you is the honor of a lifetime. I've been there for 3 sessions down in the Texas House, and I'm now the most tenured member of the Texas House in Denton County. We have 5 representatives here, and I'm the old man on the block now. And with that comes additional responsibility and additional opportunities with more seniority there in Austin. I've had the great fortune of serving in the Texas House during a great time of prosperity. While Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have destroyed our economy nationally, raising the cost of gasoline, raising your buggy of groceries that you're trying to buy with massive inflation across this country, here in Texas, where we lead with conservative government that gets out of the way of business, that has a low tax, low regulation environment, our economy is thriving. Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, and shortly after the first of the year, we're going to surpass France to become the 7th largest economy in the world. It's absolutely incredible what the job creators and workers of this state have been able to accomplish when they're freed up and given the ability to do so. Folks, this last session I helped pass the largest property tax cut of any state in the history of the United States because of the dollars that we were given by the taxpayers of this state. $18 billion pumped into our public education system to offset how much you're paying in property taxes. What we did was we expanded the homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000, meaning you don't pay any property taxes to the school on the first $100,000. And then we bought down those property tax rates from the schools by injecting cash into the system at the state level, which resulted in the largest property tax in U.S. history. And that was my honor to do that for you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to get into the questions now. I'll start with you, Hava. What is your position on gun safety, specifically the sale of assault rifles and high-capacity magazines?
All right, well, first of all, responsible gun ownership is a core part of Texas culture, y'all. Unresponsible gun ownership isn't. I support the Second Amendment, and I support the rights of responsible gun owners. But let's talk about what really is at stake here, okay? If we can ask little kids that are in kindergarten to go learn to run and hide from active shooters, I believe that the least we can do is to ask full-grown adults to pass a simple background check before they buy their gun. It's really easy to do. Honestly, guys, this shouldn't be an issue. Our safety here in Texas should be first and foremost. This isn't about taking away your rights. It's about protecting our children and our communities. Texas deserves better. They deserve leaders who are going to look out for you, your community, and your children and keep you safe. And that's what I plan on doing.
Same question, Jared. You guys let me know if you need the question repeated also.
Go ahead. And thank you. And I do believe that this is an important question. My record is very clear in the Texas House that I have voted to give you back your Second Amendment rights more than at any point in our history. We passed constitutional carry back in 2021, which allowed you to be able to access your Second Amendment rights without first asking the government for permission and paying them a fee. Imagine if you had to do that with your First Amendment rights. Imagine if before you spoke out in public at a forum like this or attended the church of your choosing, you had to pass a test that the state said that you had to pass and pay the state a fee to do so. It's absolutely ridiculous. For the first time since Reconstruction, you can now carry a firearm on your body anywhere where it's allowed, which is not everywhere, but anywhere where it's allowed without asking the government's permission to do so. Folks, Second Amendment rights in this state have gone through a transformation since the 1990s when we passed the concealed carry law, when we passed open carry, when we passed constitutional carry, and at every single time the far left said that there would be shootouts at every intersection. When someone gets cut off on the highway, there's going to be a shooting, all these things. Here's what happens, folks. You know where the shootings are? Almost exclusively gun-free zones. And almost exclusively, when a shooting is stopped, it is stopped by a good guy with a gun that gets there first. In fact, the statistics prove that. We sent a letter here recently to the State Fair of Texas, who is trying to ban you from carrying a firearm to protect yourself and your family when you're out in public on government property. And the statistics bear that out. A good guy with a gun stops the bad guy with a gun, and the most dangerous place for you to be in the state of Texas is a gun-free zone.
Thank you. Sure,
Please,
absolutely.
please. Sorry, this one's really important, guys. I'd just like to point out, Jared Patterson mentioned his unlicensed carry bill. Do you guys realize that mass shootings in Texas have gone up 65% since that unlicensed carry bill? That's not a coincidence, guys. That was on purpose. That is on purpose. This doesn't have to be this way. Honestly, think about this for a second. We can enact common sense gun safety measures. No one's coming to take away your guns. We respect the Second Amendment. We respect, like I said, the rights of responsible gun owners. We support things like common sense universal background checks. How about safe storage laws, red flag laws, mandatory training for carrying, much like a driver's license? Not that hard to do. Guys, we can fix this problem. We can stop being afraid in our schools, in our churches, in our places of worship, in our grocery stores, and God forbid, in a place like this. So let's make Texas safer for all Texans, even the Democrats and the Republicans who carry.
Okay, so Jared, if you ever come, this will count as a rebuttal, so you each have one rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not gonna ask for a show of hands on who's bought a gun in the state of Texas here, but I can almost guarantee you that if you have gone through the background check process. Almost every gun that is sold in the state of Texas is done so through a background check. Now, if I wanna sell my dad a gun, do I have to have him pass a background check? No. If I wanna go to a gun show, no. Almost every single gun that is sold in the state of Texas is done so with a background check. And so these common sense gun safety laws that you hear about from the far left, without any specific policy proposals at all with those, by the way, let's talk about safe storage. Let's talk about what they mean by safe storage. What does that mean? It means the government's gonna mandate how you store your gun in your home? How is that enforced? How do they know that you have a gun in your home? Folks, this is the far left trying to grab all of our guns in Texas because they want to come into your home. They know you've got a gun. They know you better have bought a gun safe. And by God, you ought to have it in that gun safe or they're going to take it away. That's the only way that those laws work.
Okay, question 2, we'll start with Jared. This seems to be a popular topic. What is your position on school vouchers?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the bill that we had before us in the legislature last session that I would have voted for had it actually come up for a vote. It ended up dying after an amendment went on to strip out the education savings accounts. That bill would have been the largest funding increase in the history of the state of Texas for our public schools. The largest funding increase in the history of the state of Texas for our public schools. The previous speaker got up here and lied to each and every one of you that we are taking money away from our schools to send to border security. We did pass the largest border security funding of any state in history at $6.6 billion, which has caused border crossings to go down in Texas. But we didn't do it on the backs of our teachers and our students. Education funding in Texas has never been higher. In fact, in 2019, we passed a bill that at the time was the largest funding increase in history for public education. But let's talk about what that bill had. It had an ability for 50,000 students out of the 5.5 million Texas students, the ability for 50,000 students in this order: special education students, 504 students, folks with like dyslexia, etc., and then students that are in failing schools like we have in Houston and Dallas, to have the ability to choose a different education system if it met their family's needs. The left wants to paint this as some rich white kid already going to a private school that's going to get a voucher for $10,000 to go get an education. Well, that's not what was written on the piece of paper that I was going to vote for. What was written on the piece of paper that I was going to vote for would have been a massive increase on teacher pay, which, by the way, my wife's a teacher. Both of her sisters are teachers. Both of their husbands were teachers. My mom taught 38 years in the public education system. It would have been a massive increase for our teachers, a massive increase to the bottom line of our public schools. And oh, by the way, if you're a special needs student that isn't getting taken care of, you could have chosen a different opportunity to be educated. That's what we had before us. That's what I would have supported.
All right, thank you. Hava, same question.
All right, couple of facts. Texas ranks 43 in student outcome and 44 in per pupil funding. There is an obviously clear link between the state's failure to fund public education and our students' lack in performance. Now, the problem with my friend over here isn't that he's ignorant, it's that he knows so much about vouchers that just isn't so. The fact of the matter is, vouchers may sound great on the outside, but the truth is, in states like Arizona and Florida, they have created massive budget shortfalls and even worsened the student outcomes. Vouchers don't do anything other than steal money from our public schools so that they can line the pockets of rich politicians and their donors. That is all. Vouchers have no place here. This isn't about school choice. This isn't about freedom of parents. Parents already have the choice. I have raised 4 children. I've had children go to public school, private school, homeschool, and unschool. And never at any point in time would I have walked to my neighbor's house, knocked on their door, and said, hey, I'm going to take some of your public funding away from your kids so that my kid can go to private school. That's not the way it's done. In Texas, if you don't want your kid in a public school, you walk in that door, you take them out, and you leave. They can't ask you where you're going, where you're taking them, where you're teaching them, or if you're teaching them. I know, I've done it. I've also put my kids in private school. You know why? Because the public school education did not cater to their needs. So I found one that did. But I wouldn't want y'all to pay for it. That's not your problem. No more different than I wouldn't come and take your Medicare money away because I needed an operation that I wanted something special done. That's not the way public funds work. Public dollars stay in public schools. Public schools are the backbone of this country, this state, and everything about America.
Okay. Rebuttal, good.
So that's interesting. Like a lot of wealthy elitist liberals, it's what's best for me, but none for thee. There's 2 candidates on this stage. One has taken money out of public education, my opponent. One has not. You say, well, Jared, how's that possible? Because of how our schools are funded. Our schools are funded based on something called the weighted average daily attendance. What that means is that the more children that go to the public school system, the more money they get. All three of my kids go to the public school system. They get $11,000 per student for each one of my children to go to the public education system. My opponent, who realized that the public education system wasn't best for her family, took $11,000 out of the public education system that public school did not receive because her child didn't go there. So you do have a stark contrast on this issue. You have one candidate that has taken money out of public education, and you have one candidate who believes in the system and sends their children, all three of their children, to our Frisco public schools.
Okay, rebuttal, understand, both of you, this is it, no more rebuttals.
I think this one's worth it.
Okay, no, this is it, both of y'all are through though. Okay.
First of all, I am far from a wealthy leftist, and I believe I probably have at least, 2-3 dozen friends in here who would vouch for that. Second, when I took my child out of public school, my child was a special needs student. They weren't getting the treatment that they needed in the public school, because you know where they went to school? In Wiley ISD, place where you were the city councilman at the time.
Saxon,
Now, in Wiley ISD, when I walked into the school, what's the first thing you got to see? Why, it was a New Testament sitting on a podium. Not welcome to Wiley High School, but what church do you go to? Well, that didn't sit too well with me. It didn't sit too well with my kid, because that's not a place for that. We needed a school that was right for our kids. But, like I mentioned, I didn't take money from the state. The state didn't pay for my kids to go to private school. I took 3 different jobs to put my kids in private school, so I'm pretty sure that's what we should be doing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I need a ruling on something. I don't even know who to go to. Maybe Janet, Steve, someone. Okay, Dale.
Yes.
Right. Would like to use one of his rebuttals. He's not on the stage. He's already spoken. But he'd like to use one of his rebuttals right now. Is it yes or no?
I'm good with it.
Go ahead.
I want to give a point of clarification real quick. So when it comes to the concept of whether or not Hava is taking money away from our public schools, because as it was brought up, the WEDA was brought up, I want to make sure that everyone understands that really what's making that's hurting our public schools right now is something called a basic allotment. So there's a static number that is above every kid's head that attends that public school, and that number fluctuates based on their attendance and also based upon their needs, whether it's special ed, at risk, etc. That static number hasn't been adjusted since, I think, almost a decade, at least long before the pandemic. Jared and I together were at a closed-door meeting with the Frisco ISD where they gave us charts and talked about this. So they had very specific things that they really needed in order to stay functioning, in order to get out of the current deficit that they're in. And one of the top things is increasing that basic allotment. And they want that basic allotment increased, and that needs to be done without a voucher program. Thank you.
Do I get to respond to the rebuttals, or is that a rebuttal to a rebuttal?
As I understand it, you're done.
Okay. So there's no response to the rebuttal?
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
That's fair.
Okay. You're both? Everybody gets it, okay. All right, going to Hava this time, and again, this has come up before. Real quickly, what is your view on climate change?
Climate change, well. I think I mentioned somewhere in my introduction about how we need to be protecting our wildlife, our waterways, and all of our natural resources. Climate change is a direct effect of all of that. We live, like Mr. Patterson, I live in Frisco. I live in a very moving and grooving area of Frisco where Universal Studios is being built, and the PGA, and we have the Fields development. Something like over 656 acres worth of land has been torn up. Well, what do you think happens to all that wildlife? Where do you think all the pollution from the construction, where do you think that's going? These big corporations that we're happy to bring to Texas, major companies that are going to bring so much economy with little regard to our environment or our climate. I'd like to find out why Mr. Patterson over here was okay with dumping fracking water in our waterways. I'd like to know why they want to paint climate change like a hoax when it's pretty hot outside, y'all. And we had the power out in one of the biggest snowstorms we've ever had in North Texas just a couple years ago. Climate change is real. It's a real problem, and it takes real solutions, and that's going to take real leaders who are really ready to step up, acknowledge the problem, and find solutions that will fix them by working with the organizations that are already there. The science is already there, if you believe in science.
All right, thank you. Jared, same question. What are your thoughts on climate change?
Man, y'all, I'm sorry it's so hot outside. We didn't have heat in Texas until the Industrial Revolution. Look, the bottom line is climate change is a hoax. It is an ability to tax you out of your house and home to be able to fund wind and solar, which does not work. You know why? Works in California, has the highest electricity rates in the entire nation, but wind and solar is free, right? Wind and solar is free. California has the highest electricity rates in the nation. They have one of the least reliable grids in the nation. We did have an issue in 2021 on the grid, and do you know what saved every single one of you that is sitting in here? God's blessing of natural gas that He gave us. Natural gas is what provided.
Let's keep the public comments down, okay?
Natural gas is what saved us during Winter Storm Uri. But unfortunately, there weren't enough natural gas plants available to us because the federal government has pumped so much money into incentives for wind and solar that it crowded out other investment in the market. Wind power, do you know when wind power works? Between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. You know what we don't need between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m.? The maximum output of a source of electricity generation. Now, solar's great. Solar actually provides power when we need it on hot summer afternoons. The problem is that solar power falls off a cliff at dusk and doesn't come back until the next morning. Now, the environmentalists who want to put the grown American men and women out in West Texas pulling that oil and gas out of the ground, they want to put those folks out of work. You know who they want to hire? The children in slave labor over in Africa, in mines that are owned by the Chinese, to mine these materials that go into these batteries so that we can pump battery power for 3 or 4 hours for longevity of the solar power that goes onto our grid. Do you want to put grown Americans out of work in West Texas and hire slave labor in China? I say no.
All right, very good. Last question, and we will start with Jared. And again, I would caution the audience, please keep your opinions to yourself. We're moving along pretty good. We'll probably have some time afterwards, some meet and greet, mingle, glad handing. So, last question, again, starting with Jared. How would you prioritize use of federal infrastructure grants for Texas?
Yeah, well, look, I want to address that, but I'm going to address something from a couple of questions ago real quick. I've never lived in Wiley. I've never served on the Wiley City Council. There's so much that my two opponents here don't know really about anything, but especially about that. The basic allotment that was brought up earlier for our public education system is about $6,100 per student. That's not all the funding our schools get. They get $11,000 per student. So just clearing some of those things up from earlier. In terms of infrastructure grants, one of the things that we've done here in Texas, just in the last session in 2023, are the largest investments in the history of our state in our infrastructure. The largest investments in transportation infrastructure we've ever had, the largest investments in water infrastructure that we've ever had, and for the first time ever, grants to try to build new natural gas-fired power plants here in Texas. Now you say, well, Jared, why do we have to have state incentives for natural gas-fired power plants? Why don't they just build them? Well, I answered that a second ago, because they can't compete. The problem is the federal government's coming into one of your pockets and taking out cash and handing it to the big banks on Wall Street to fund the wind power and the solar power. Now the state of Texas has to come into your other pocket and grab money out to try to give it to the natural gas guys because they can't compete otherwise. We need reliable, stable power on the grid, and we can't have that if we've got to just pray for the wind to blow and for the sun to shine. So there's a lot of infrastructure needs in Texas. It's something that we're taking care of at a state level, but absolutely would love to pull down federal dollars when we can to help us invest in infrastructure. It's what the federal government ought to do. In fact, if the federal government was doing what they should do, we wouldn't have to spend $6.6 billion on border security in this state. Your state tax dollars, $6.6 billion, which ought to be going to our schools and our healthcare system and our roads, is having to go to stop the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, and the fentanyl coming across our southern border that Joe
Okay.
Biden and Kamala Harris and these folks
Thank
right
you.
here want to have.
Thank you. All right, you need the question repeated, Hava, or you good?
All right, so
Okay, we're good.
last question. This is gonna be fun. Let's talk about the grid. Jared Patterson over here, you know what he does for a living, y'all? He sells natural gas. So he has a
Not
vested
true.
interest in making your power bills higher. That's how he feeds his family.
That's not true.
Personally, I am for all of the above. Solar, wind, and yeah, natural gas. Hell, in a state as big as Texas and growing as fast as we are, if you can tell me that a hamster on a wheel would generate power, I'd be for that too. But it is downright embarrassing that in the energy capital of the world, Texans are still facing power outages when the temperatures are too high and when the temperatures are too low. This is bad government. Bad government got us here, and I am committed to making sure that Texans keep their lights on and never face power outages again.
All right, thank you, both candidates. Appreciate it. And we are moving on to County Commissioner. Did Tommy Bedford show up? Tommy Bedford? No? All right. So we're just going to have Ryan Williams for Denton County Commissioner. Let's give it up for Ryan. And Ryan, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
We're good. I can do this in about 30 seconds. First off, I really want to appreciate the opportunity to have us here. It's a blessing that we're able to come and have these kind of forums and give both options of who you can vote for. My name is Ryan Williams. I'm your current County Commissioner of Precinct 1. Precinct 1 runs from Sanger all the way to Frisco. Pretty much it's 14 cities, the 380 south, or 380 north, 35 north, pretty much that area. I'm not your traditional politician, if you will. I'm a politician by definition because you put your name on a ballot, people vote for you, and that's what you become. My background is in business. I was a successful businessman for 23 years. God blessed me. I was able to sell my company in 2017 and retire at a very young age. Good and bad. I had a lot of energy still. So I took about 2.5 years to try to figure out what I wanted to do, and for some reason God thought that getting in politics was part of the deal. I've also been a non-paid law enforcement officer for 25 years. So I've done that. What that non-paid means is I do it for free. So I give back to the community as a law enforcement officer. I worked in the city of Roanoke. I worked for Denton County for a while, and I don't believe in working for the same county that I'm a commissioner in. So I retired or resigned as an officer in Denton County and then went back to the city of Roanoke. I'm very fortunate to have this position. You know, I get to make decisions that affect you every day. The folks that have been up here before us, they have a vote, but their vote is with a lot of other people involved. You know, I'm sure if my competitor was up here today, was able to be here, and I'm unfortunate that the gentleman's not, because I love to hear what they have to say and what maybe I could do better. But at the end of the day, I'm blessed to represent you, and I hope that that you all realize and feel like I've done a really good job the past 4 years, and I'll earn another 4 years. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Question number 1. What would you recommend to improve county government to make it more efficient and transparent?
Excellent question. So I think I brought that to the Commissioner's Court. For anybody that doesn't understand what the Commissioner's Court is, which I had no clue until I got into this, there's 4 commissioners and 1 judge, and that's not a judicial judge. We don't sit there and do anything that has to do with criminal or civil law. But nevertheless, that is the work of what the 5 of us get to do is wonderful. We make decisions based on the financial dollars we receive from your property tax, okay? And so to make it better, make it transparent, what I bring to the table as a businessman is I know how to negotiate contracts. So I was able to come in and look at it and look at the financial side of things. Not always do you have that in the political world. I had to, in my organization and a lot of the others around here, I'm sure that have their own business, the only way we make a living, the way we make money is making sure we make good decisions. Okay, government unfortunately can make great decisions, bad decisions, and always still has a pocket full of money. I didn't have that, so I'm able to put those things in place to make sure that we spend your money wisely and to the best of our abilities. And I bring that piece to the court to have those discussions with my partners. So I feel very confident that that's what I'm able to bring to do a really good job for you.
Very good, sir. Question number 2. What projects would you recommend to accommodate the rapid growth of Denton County?
Yeah, excellent. Another excellent question. Unfortunately, government works backwards from private sector. Okay, private sector looks and sees and takes initiative right away. And this again is no disrespect to any government position because we all have to follow the same rules and regulations. But obviously the biggest thing that we have going or against us here, especially the precinct that I represent, is the lack of the road structure, the infrastructure of roads. We're always seem to be behind, and we try to plan well and try to execute well, but you've got to look at the state has the whole state to look at. I'm just worried about the city, of Denton County and the precinct I represent. So every one of us know how 380 is. 380 is one of the worst roads in the state of Texas, the most dangerous road in Denton County. Anytime you drive up and down it, it's never really a happy drive. You know, if you work on one side or the other, you've got an hour just to try to get from one place to another. It is horrible. So we spend a lot of time in our vehicles. But that is one area that I have spent a lot of time, the first 3.5 years I've been in office, is how do we take the lack of infrastructure and increase that. And so that's what I've been working a lot on. I think you're gonna see a lot of improvement over the next few years. Obviously 380 is going through some rapid, I don't call it rapid, I want to back up here a little bit, a very slow process of widening and trying to make that better for us. Most of us here probably won't even see some of the things that we're trying to put in place, and I don't mean that because we'll pass away, but hopefully we move away before that happens. But nevertheless, the biggest thing that we need to do within Denton County is work on the road system.
All right, thank you. Question 3, which projects should have priority? By the way, all the excellent questions being referenced, I wrote those. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That excellent question. Does that make you feel better? Again, it's the same thing. I can go right back to the same issue that what the county has a lot of the responsibility of, and that's the road system. Now, so again, the roads. I do want to make it very clear. We have a really good relationship with TxDOT, which is the ones that handle the majority of the main road systems throughout Denton County. Jared and I work tremendously close with the citizens, and we listen to the concerns and complaints and try to enact those things. When I'm having an issue with TxDOT, we reach out to Jared and say, hey, can you help us out? But that's very rare, because really we do. Denton County has a phenomenal relationship with TxDOT, and so again, it goes back to the infrastructure of the roads, trying to improve the thoroughfare ways to get to and from our work, to and from taking little Johnny to a sporting event, picking our grandkids up, dropping them off, and trying to do it in a safe manner. Unfortunately, with as much traffic, and unfortunately what we can't stop is the growth of the amount of people that want to live in Texas, and there's a lot of positive reasons people want to live in Texas. Texas is a huge one. We can't stop that growth. It's just going to continue happening. And so the only thing we can try to do is plan ahead, and that is adding more roads as we possibly can, which is going to disturb people for a short period of time, sometimes a long period of time, a lot of times, because obviously construction is going to make it even worse. So, but unfortunately, that is something we have to deal with to get to the future. The outer loop is something I'm very proud of. When I got into office, again, it was just part of the scenario, meeting with the right individuals and said, hey, we need an outer loop. If you don't know what that is, that's going to be something that'll take people from one side of our county to the other, and it is going to help out traffic flow tremendously. It'll obviously take a long time for that to be fully enacted.
Okay, last question. How should Commissioners Court use federal infrastructure grants to benefit the county?
Another good question. So obviously with COVID, the county benefited tremendously. We got a lot of federal funds, which is called ARPA funds. Based on the ARPA funds, you can only use them in certain places. And so we've been very careful on how we spend those dollars. And the other thing that has been really good with all those dollars is we got a very large amount of your tax dollars, bottom line, is really what it is. It's our tax dollars coming through the federal government. With interest rates, the only part of interest rates that I feel is good is we've been making a lot of money on the interest of these funds. The funds that are made on the interest, we can spend those however we want. So we've been utilizing a lot of those money and earmarking a lot of that money for roadways, new buildings that are necessary for the county, and also obviously trying to cut your tax rate. Okay, since I've been in office, we've cut your tax rate every single year. Now, unfortunately, we're the smallest entity on your appraisal, on your taxes, when you pay it. You look for Dent County, it's the one at the very bottom, you can barely see it. I have nothing to do with the appraisals, okay, please, no arrow shooting up here, please. But at the end of the day, my job is to try to keep your tax rate as low as possible. So that is something that's going to benefit, obviously, with these ARPA funds from the federal government, and we have been spending them on all the infrastructure possible.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Again, thank you all. We really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
All right, next up, a subject or an office is very near and dear to my heart. I'm a retired police officer. So this is concerning the Denton County Sheriff, and I don't believe Sheriff Murphy is here, right? Didn't make it. All right, so with that, we have Fredrick Bishop, who is running for Denton County Sheriff. Let's give it up for Fredrick. 2 minutes, sir.
It's 2 minutes. It is 2 minutes?
Intro yourself.
Thank y'all for having me today. I am Fredrick Bishop. I am running for Denton County Sheriff. I'm trying to change some things on fairness, integrity, and teamwork. I am from Denton, Texas. Graduated high school there. Went to the Army from there. Once I completed the Army, I started working at the Dallas Sheriff's Office, where I was a jailer there for 6 years. After there, in 1995, I went to the Dallas Police Department, where I was there for 21 years and 8 months. Did various stints there, detective and capers, crimes against persons, community policing, narcotics, bike patrol, just about everything that you can do in there. But my favorite part was being a detective and interrogating, and that was where I kind of enjoyed doing that. Right now, I'm teaching at Little Elm High School. I am teaching Law Enforcement 1, Law Enforcement 2, and we work on the Constitution, some of the amendments in the Constitution, and I'm coaching boys basketball, 9th grade boys basketball at this time. Just trying to help make some changes here, and my main concern is trying to erase that line that's between us and bring the department where it's for everyone, not just for a certain fashion and stuff. Try to bring some teamwork, work together, and let's make Denton County safe. Thank you.
Very good, thank you for that. So your first question, how would you allocate staff to cover rural areas adequately?
There's two things that you can do. You're talking for rural areas where you're having problems out there? Is that just in general? Okay, in general, first I would do is we would have to designate what we've done in Dallas. We just designate certain areas where we assign somebody to that area. There's also other things that you can do that's innovative, where you can have poll cameras, things of that sort to watch if you don't have a lot of officers. I know it's right now that the department is short on personnel. I do totally understand that. But yet the citizens have to be protected. So there's little things that you can do by working, collaborating with the other agencies that's in that area. Maybe talk to the chief, do you have extra body? But my main thing that I would do is assign that area to a certain patrol officer. Let's get the notes. And then another thing that you can do is work with the community there and see if there's anyone out there that has any information that might help if it's a certain crime going on. Law enforcement is geared to help the community, but you have to partner with the community and work with them to make sure that you're getting the coverage that you need. So it works both ways. If y'all could be the eyes and the ears, get that information to us, then we can have the officers go out there. But some of these crimes are never solved without the help of the community. So you have to partner with the community.
Thank you, sir. Question 2, What procedures do you recommend to prevent prisoner abuse and self-harm?
There's two questions there, prisoner abuse and self-harm to themselves or to? So you got the
assume,
officers,
yeah.
you got the officers and then you got prisoner abuse, okay, gotcha.
Right.
So, prisoner abuse, we've had to educate, you have to talk, you have to keep training, there's requirements for training. When you take a test, when you get on with law enforcement, you take a psychological evaluation. Sometimes I think now, these time of days, you have mental health. I think sometimes you have to let these officers get counseling. In Dallas, they have a new innovative program, it's called the Wellness Center, and I have to refer to Dallas, and I apologize because that's where I worked at. So we have a wellness center where they go and talk to people. It comes with training and teaching them how to treat the inmates. Can I get the second part of the question again?
And self-harm.
Self-harm. With the department being so short, I know they had some issues up there that I've read about, but I'm not here to second guess Sheriff Murphy, and I would never ridicule him. I think you have to get enough personnel to say, okay, can we have a watch? You have watches where you can do, I forgot the key word we use, where they do a periodic check on those people. Make sure they have the mental health that they need. I know the sheriff's office has mental health workers there, and make sure that they're checking on them, and make sure that these people that have these problems are talking to the mental health workers. The county provides that also, so there's a wealth of information and people that could help, but I think it's gonna take collaboration of the department reaching out to those entities, also teaching the jailers and the people working in the jail how to deal with certain situations with the mental health.
Thank you, sir. Question 3. What procedures do you recommend to control domestic violence in rural areas?
From law enforcement, there's really no procedure. You have to go by what the law states. That's just it. The procedure, yeah, you can offer counseling. I told when I used to train some rookies in Dallas, I said you're a counselor, a lawyer, a doctor, and everything, and those things that you have to learn to juggle the hat. You're a chameleon, you're changing. The procedure itself, it's against the law, it's assault, it's domestic violence. They have to go to jail. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But then you can offer some type of counseling that the county offers, and offer those things to those people. There's no set answer, and it depends on each situation that happens. So legally, go to jail, but yet I would like to say, okay, let's offer some counseling and see what's going on. What's the underlying factor that causes family violence?
Thank you. And your last question, you kind of touched on this in your intro, but what is your experience and training in law enforcement?
I've had over 3,400 hours with TCO. I've had community policing, I've had bike patrol, I've had interrogation school, I've gone to the Quantico, Virginia surveillance school. I taught at the police academy. I was an advisor out there also. As you know, I'm teaching now. My degree is in secondary education. Without the certification, it was in history and kinesiology. There are certain things that, I've done it all. Let me see what else. This is the hard part that I don't like when you have to tell about yourself. But I need to. The other thing is, I've trained in the students when they come up, the community policing, when we would bring the kids in to talk to the, I can't think of the name. When you work with the kids, I forgot what they're like little kids that come in and put the uniforms on. I can't think of the word. Anybody can help me out here? Any officer?
Community policing?
No, it was the kids when you come up and you teach law enforcement. So you bring them in and you teach them things about
Explorer program?
Yes, Explorer program. Okay, so we've worked with that. So I've done a multitude of things. The thing that I'm proud of is that when I went to and taught at the academy and you deal with different mindsets, that was my biggest thing out there when we taught out there and taught the rookies how to deal with certain people, certain cultures, and try to open their mind to a different facet of life. As I stated before, I know we have this divide with politics and everything, and I'm listening now, but I told my wife, I said, look, we're split down the middle. And I just think that's not for law enforcement. I think that we should be able to work together. I should be able to help this side just like I'm helping this side. And that's just how I feel about it. All this other stuff, I'll let the politicians and the big wig people handle that. I'm just going to handle the law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just so you know, TCOL, you mentioned TCOL, that's Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. That's what gives us, they're our college, our overseer, whatever. That's what, you know, they give us the authority behind the badge, comes from TCOL. So with these training hours he's talking about, that's our college, if you will. So thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, real quick, we are done. First of all, let's give it up for all the candidates to come out here on a Sunday like this, in the heat. And folks, I got called about a month ago to do this. I've done this out here in the past, and you see what I did. They called me a month ago, said, Matt, will you do this? I said, yes. That's all the contact I had with them. I show up, I sit there for 2 hours, you saw the extent of my contribution to this. The people that need the praise on this for putting this together is a programming committee. The people at Frisco Lakes, the people that work here, the infrastructure, they're the ones that put this together. They write the questions, they set up the tables, they invite the candidates, they schedule it, they get things done behind the scenes. They've been working on this for several months. My part was this much. Their part is huge. And I think we need to give them a round of applause. To keep them so God bless you guys. Thanks for coming out. I think we have the room till 3 o'clock. They usually like to get us out of here about a quarter till or so, but I don't know. But there's time to, this is the baby kissing time. Go out and take your baby and get a kiss by a politician right now, all right? Thanks, everybody.